It's better than a triple double? A triple double with no misses from the field. What's better than a win over the Lakers without LeBron James? An easy win over the Lakers without LeBron James. This is Locked On Nuggets.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast, part of the Locked On Network. Thanks for joining us and making us part of your day and your first listen. We appreciate you guys being with us on all platforms, including YouTube, where you can join the show and join folks talking with us every single day. Today's show is brought to you by PrizePicks. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. That's PrizePicks.com, promo code Locked On. My name is Matt Moore. I'm the senior NBA writer for the Action Network, joined by Adam Mares. Glad to have you guys with us on a Monday or Tuesday, rather, as I remember what the space-time continuum looks like after not that late of a game, after a game on Monday versus the Los Angeles Lakers. We thought this was going to be a good test of the Nuggets and their resolve and how they were playing, and then LeBron James was out with an ankle. And so it turned into the Russell Westbrook show and the Dennis Schroeder show and the Thomas Bryant show, and I don't think it comes as a shock to anybody that the Denver Nuggets got the win versus the Los Angeles Lakers. On Tuesday night, they get the win 122-109, pushing on the final line of 13, by the way. Nikola Jokic leads the way with 14 points, 5 of 5 from the field, 11 rebounds, 16 assists, no misses. He did wind up with 4 turnovers after having none in the first half. Adam Mares of DMVR, you can catch more of the pregame and postgame show with him at the DMVR bar before and after every Nuggets game. Adam, what was your takeaway from the Nuggets win over the Lakers?
You kind of said it. Like, this is one of those games where it only needed a few lines. We'll go in a little bit more depth, but this was a easy win. Like, the Nuggets could have won this game a lot of different ways. They chose to win it a very specific way, and it worked out, and it was very comfortable. And that is, in part, how talented the Nuggets are, but I think it has much more to do with just how untalented that version of the Lakers team is. I will say, going in, Thomas Bryant, I thought gave Jokic the business in the last game, and going into this one, I thought, all right, show him who's. Yet he ended up with a perfect triple double.
Yeah, I have a hard time with how to judge this performance from Denver, and usually if any other time in Nuggets history that I'm covering this team outside of the Jokic era, if a player has a perfect triple-double, I will rave and be like, what an incredible performance and just awesome. Look what he gave. With Joker, I was kind of like,
yeah,
pretty good game. Fine.
I know.
Got the job done.
I mean, what would you grade this game if you graded him? Because it's both an A+ and a B-.
Gosh, that's hard. I think for me, the big thing is just no one on the Nuggets. I'll say this. They didn't play down to them, and they deserve credit for that.
Right.
And Joker didn't completely check out. This was a game where the Nuggets figured out in the first 5 minutes that they could handle this and that they weren't going to be in for that much of a dogfight. I was kind of waiting to see, all right, is there going to be a letdown? Malone really hammered it. He was really hammering about, guys, there's no LeBron. There's no AD. This is a prime letdown spot. Let's actually go out there and handle business. And the Nuggets handled business, but they handled it in such a way that was basically no, we're not going to underplay, but we're definitely not going to overplay either. It was just they handled the Los Angeles Lakers without LeBron. That to me was how it was, because I felt like there was a lot of individual ISO offense. You saw things like Aaron Gordon coming off and shooting mid-range jumpers, which he doesn't take in games that are super relevant. You saw some KCP ISO stuff. Jamal had it going, and Jamal definitely saw that this was an opportunity to not put up numbers. That's not accurate, but that he was going to be able to score. And he needs games like this, I think, in order to improve as he goes along. And Joker knew that he could just tear this defense up with passing. I don't think Joker went in it. I think if Joker had felt like the game was getting close and that he needed to score, he would have scored. Joker
For
definitely
sure.
felt like I can get assists, and so he got assists.
I would analyze it. And I'm curious what I always
You're cutting out audio wise. I can't. Ruh-roh. Technical difficulties as Adam Mares fixes his mic.
my mic wire is very sensitive. Is
Here,
it
go back.
can you hear me now?
Yes, I do.
Here's my thought. I always compare this team to the 2014 Spurs because I think that's to me the team that they should most model themselves after. And I wonder if that team in the regular season, maybe you remember better than me. I don't remember this. If they fell out of that connective rhythm often, ever, sometimes, like I don't know. And the reason I say this is last night I felt like Jokic played the game of, hey, let's keep it going. I even get to shoot less tonight. I'll get the ball popping even more. And everybody else was like, nah, this is a game I get to take a bunch of shots and I get to do some other stuff. And it almost was like, it's not a big deal. You win, you got to win in the regular season. I don't think it matters. But this was a game that, to me, what's been exciting about the Nuggets is they've been so connected. And this was a step back in that one way. Does it matter? I don't know. We'll find out probably on Wednesday and then again on Friday. But to me, that's the only thing about this game that I kind of take away is you won the bad way, I guess.
I think the two things can be true, that the process wasn't great and the team was talented enough to win anyway. I wouldn't say this was a game of like adversity that caused that. Like you needed to do these things. It was more that you could do these things.
Yep.
And had it cost them, we'd be talking about that, right? Like had
No
the
question.
Lakers been better, we talked about like how look, you got to stay true to your process. This is the NBA, and things are really difficult, and every single night you're going to get challenged, and you can't have games where you do. And the reality is, in like in 82 games, you are going to have games where it's just like, no, like if you're good enough, you can't have good games like this. Like last year they couldn't. Last year they had to be locked in to like being connected as much as possible because the talent wasn't there.
And
Like
by the
Denver
way, the
had
Nuggets bear this out. This was a below average offensive rating, 113. That is
Mhm.
like, that's for them, it's well below. So
for
it
league
was,
average. So I'm looking at cleaning the glass right now. Non-garbage time, it's at 112. It was 48th percentile for the season.
so I mean, that just shows you that Denver went against a very shorthanded G League-esque team and put up a below average offense. So, but again, it doesn't matter. And their defense, I thought, was good in this game.
Yeah.
It wasn't great, but like they were focused on the defensive end more than they have been. If this was October, November, we saw way worse defensive efforts against bad teams. So,
And the other thing I'll say here is, I did think that Jamal was taking what the defense gave. Now he made some tough ones, right? He got it going and was making some tough ones. He made some tough layups in particular. I thought that his ability to finish was really impressive in this game.
yeah, I agree. His finishing was good.
Yeah. I think, how can I put this? It's one of those things where the results really do to kind of determine the process, and that's not necessarily fair or a great way of approaching it. But I'll say, like, I think it's important from time to time to have games like this where you do kind of say, like, hey guys, you can eat tonight. And not just from you get open shots, but from no, you're a talented basketball player. You can go do things too.
I
Like,
think I'm there as well.
like I think it's okay for there to be, especially like, again, I go back to like Aaron Gordon taking in a pick and roll off dribble side pull up jumper. Like that's just not a shot Aaron has taken very much this season. And that's an example of like everyone kind of being in there, I can do stuff.
Yeah.
And I think it's good to have those opportunities for guys to feel like, hey, you get to showcase it. You're not, because I always worry about morale on teams where you're constantly having to credit one guy with everything. I think it takes away from the spirit of the team. I think it can be true.
I agree. That's probably true. I'll say this: the one guy who I thought went off script the least out of the starting lineup, Michael Porter. This is not a night where I felt like he was going like calling his number a bunch.
Yeah, no, he was pretty much like trying to stay connected on the kind of triggers. I think for him, he's still so scarred from being hammered on. Don't try and be what you think you are. Be what we need you to be.
Could be.
And I want to ask this question of you. 2 of 6 from 3-point range. What's he at on the season?
I think he's at 40%.
That's crazy because I feel like he hasn't shot. Yeah, he's at 41%. I feel like he hasn't shot all that great lately.
I mean, 2 of 6 isn't that bad, right? I mean,
Yeah, it's not terrible.
2 of 6 not going to weigh your average down very much at this point of the season.
It's true. 12 points on 13 shots for MPJ last night, but 7 boards. So he did that. Kept it up. Plus 13. And that's all we really got in this game. I'm gonna be honest with you. That Lakers team without LeBron and AD is terrible.
It really is.
Now, but we gotta get a break. I just want to give like a quick shout out to the bench. Black played well again. Zeke played amazing defense, awesome defense, elite defense on switches. Zeke was
Other than the
phenomenal.
fouling, he did pick up 3,013 minutes, which is kind of becoming a.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not even becoming. I would say it is a trend with him.
I think 2 of them were after they put Bryant back in. And that kind of makes sense, right? Like if he has to go up against a starter that's big, he's going to have problems. If he's able to go against smaller guys, he'll be probably okay. But I thought the switching on Russ was excellent. On Schroeder was excellent. I thought Bruce Brown played well, 6 of 11, another three pointers for Bruce Brown. So I thought the bench played well, which good for them for not making this into a game where the Nuggets had to be frustrated and then risk things going downhill. There was there never felt like there was any significant momentum. And also like credit to the Nuggets for they got to 5 and then immediately pushed it back to 20. It was really funny. I will say this. The funniest thing about last night before we get a break is how Michael Malone's attitude was post game, which was very much like he's usually like, you guys can't do this. You gotta make sure that you did it. Oh, you did all the things I want you to. Oh, okay. I guess we can just go home now. Like that. It was.
I think it's honestly
was
the thing.
disappointed. He doesn't have anything to complain about.
We always focus on the offensive end, which is what we spent this whole time on, but they were fine defensively. Like they did their assignments. So I think that's all Malone cares about.
And you know what? In this spot versus this squad, impressive to not screw around and get caught. So I thought that was pretty good. Let's take a break. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about what does Nuggets have left to work on? What do they have left to kind of fix? Like where do they go from here? We've talked about the championship stuff on Monday, but for the regular season, like what are the process things that they need to focus on? We'll do that when we come back on Locked On Nuggets. But first I need to tell you about PrizePicks, which is daily fantasy made easy. All you got to do in PrizePicks is just pick 2 to 6 players, and if they'll score more or less than their projections, and you can go up to 25 times their money on any entry. The cool thing about it, the app's really intuitive. Some of these apps can be very confusing. PrizePicks is very easy to understand. It's fun to flip through all the players. You got all these different options. They've got so many sports that you can choose from. You got the NFL playoffs coming up. You got MLB, NHL, PGA, soccer, WNBA, esports, NASCAR, tennis, MMA, boxing. They got disc golf. I didn't even know that there was disc golf leagues, but they've got it. Euro basketball, cricket, and more. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's just that easy. They offer safe and fast withdrawals in over 30 states and Canada. Download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. Don't forget to enter promo code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, at sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Back here on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us, making this part of your day. Appreciate you guys being with us on a Tuesday. Our big question right now, as we kind of we're brainstorming what else to talk about today, is this was a very boilerplate win. We will not remember this Lakers win at the end of the season. Is what do the Nuggets have left to work on? Like what do the Nuggets have? What's the process stuff that needs to be improved? What are the things that they need to focus on from their play standpoint in improving? And I'm curious to know where you want to start with this, Adam. I have a couple of thoughts, but I'm curious to know what are the things that really stick out in your mind as far as the process things that Denver needs to improve, given how well they've played lately at the top of the Western Conference.
I think I start with defense just because I think at the offense, they're at 70% their potential offensively, and it's good enough. So I would love to see them get a little bit better. But defense, if you look at the last 10 games, which is when Michael Porter came back, and I almost feel like it's this new wave is 10 games. They're 8-2, I believe, in these last 10 games. You have 8-2. They have the 8th best defense. Second best offense, 8th best defense. That's the formula, right? Plus 7.9 net rating over those 10 games. And I think it actually is better if you go back like 15 games because they had some good defensive games right before that. But to me, that's it. I want to see how long can they remain. Like if I say right now, over the last 13 games, they were a top 10 defense. I want to know how long we can extend this. At one point, are we going to say, are they over the last 40 games, they were a top 10 defense after the last 50 games of the year? Because to me, that's the indicator of like, okay, they got to that level and they sustained it for a period of time, not just they had some home games and they juiced their numbers.
I have a simple one. I have a really easy one. I have one that's not like there's not a lot to work on. It's just you got to do this better. How about you hit your free throws? That's the thing that they definitely need to work on. Since in these last 13 games, I'm looking at them right now over at Cleaning the Glass. The Nuggets offensively are 20th in free throw rate. And their free throw percentage has not been good either. Aaron Gordon's a lot of that, but they definitely need to improve in terms of you can't leave points on the table in the playoffs. So they need to get those kind of percentages up. And I think that shooting, I think, is one that's less variant, right? It's less erratic. 3-point shooting will go up and down. You can control the quality of the looks that you're getting, and that's what the Nuggets have improved and are excellent at. But like free throws are a high percentage opportunity. You need to knock those down. They need to probably do a little bit better at drawing fouls. Some of that Nuggets fans are predictably and understandably going to say like, hey, how about Nikola Jokic gets a foul call? Which is fair because I think he gets a really bad whistle still. He got a better one after All-Star last year, so I kind of wonder if his annual conversation with Luka Doncic at All-Star will lead to him drawing more fouls. For me, the other thing I will say offensively, they're doing better on the turnovers. And last night was a really good example of how you can turn the ball over and not allow points off of turnovers. That to me is a big key of this is, you always say like the turnovers are a function of whether the offense is working. Like, are you executing well? And whether the ball is finding energy. I think that's true. I think correlative to that is high passing offenses are by their very nature going to have more turnovers. I have an NFL corollary to this. The top 5 players in NFL interceptions, like 4 of those are 4 of the top quarterbacks in the league. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes are amongst the league leaders in interceptions. Because if you pass more, you're going to throw more interceptions.
Right.
And I think with the Nuggets, that's kind of true too. Getting the turnovers down, I think they've done a good job of managing that, but continuing to work on getting back in transition to make sure that you are giving like, that's an effort thing that you can fix and just doing the rhythm of it. And it's conditioning. Just get back, get stops, focus on being the team that if you're going to accept like, hey, we're going to turn the ball over, you can actually say that. You can actually be like, look, we're going to turn the ball over. It's how our offense is. But you also have to commit to, which means it's really important that we get back. And so those to me, you clean up the transition defense. And I really think a lot of their problems are going to go away in terms of the overall numbers that they give up. Because when you really kind of break it down, their half-court defense is currently ranked 20th, which is not good enough. But given the start to the season, I don't have the numbers because I'm not able to pull them. In half-court defense, I would imagine over the last 13 games, they're probably top 15. And that's more than good enough. You just need to clean up the transition stuff, and I think that they're in a pretty good spot.
Yeah. I like both of those. I think they both make sense and are both like, would you say likely to happen?
Ooh. I think the free throws are more likely to happen than the transition defense.
Really?
Yeah, because I think the transition defense is there is a load expectation that happens with this. So like last night, Juan Toscano-Anderson burst ahead of Joker and Jamal. And you can say like, well, yeah, but both of those guys knew the situation. They were going to win that game. And that's fair. But this is that's the kind of thing to clean up, right? It's just like and I don't know what's reasonable to ask of Jamal and Joker in terms of, because of their usage rates getting back. Like, I don't know. Because I've had, I asked Rand about this once. I've asked a couple of players about the balance between offense and defense. I do think it's hard. I think if you work a lot on offense, it's hard for you to have the physical energy to sprint back. Like if we try and bolt this down to like biomechanics, I think the more that you have to work on offense, the harder it is to have the energy to sprint back and get up on defense, which is why some of the best transition defenders are guys that have very low physical usage rates on offense. Danny Green, historically, is a really good example of this. Danny Green is legitimately the best transition defender I've ever seen. And that sounds crazy.
Good
Danny
point.
Green
No,
has one of
but
the highest
really
block
good.
rates of any guard in NBA history. It's like him and
Wow.
Dwayne Wade.
Yeah.
And he was amazing at shutting down 3-on-1s. Guess what Danny Green did on offense? Run a couple of off-ball screens. Mostly he stood in the corner.
Right.
So that to me is like the free throw shooting. I think they can improve because that's just like repetition and focus. That to me is what that translates to.
If I think about the the things that can really raise this team, Michael Porter getting his athleticism back would be a big one for me because I think it'll
Interesting.
impact both ends of the court for him. Right now, Michael Porter is a really good role player, like a great floor spacer, but low usage. I mean, he kind of offensively almost has a lot of the same responsibilities as a KCP. I think he has more to give there, but it probably requires his athleticism to kind of come back, his pop to come back. I'm curious over the next month. That'll be one of the big things I'm evaluating is, are we starting to see him play above the rim? He has been rebounding. It's actually manifested itself in rebounding. And some of the rebounds he's got are like over centers where he's just out jumped them and corralled the ball. So for me, Michael Porter being athletic by the end of the year would be a huge win for the Nuggets and boost their title odds.
This is a small note, and it may not be anything. Porter fell in the first quarter on it was believe an offensive sequence. He fell and landed kind of awkwardly. And after that, he looked a little ginger to me. Now, he played hard the rest of the game and like he missed shots, but like I said that I was a little bit worried about him. He got a bucket a few minutes later. So it's like maybe he's okay. But these are the kind of things where I still kind of hold my breath just about worried about him tweaking the back. So he might be totally fine, but it might just be one of those things where like, yeah, he fell down and he hurt. Like that's understandable. That's understandable for anyone. I fell down the stairs and I hurt. But it's just something that kind of like, it does kind of, for me, it's just like a reminder of how close it always feels like it is with Porter to being like holding your breath. And that's unfortunate. And that's not really, I know that's got to drive him crazy too. You know, the idea that he doesn't want to be considered that. No one wants to be considered fragile. So, but something to kind of consider. Other than that, got to keep it up. Just don't. And the other thing is keep the right attitude, which is this nice balance that they found of going to work, doing the job, enjoying being together. Bruce Brown said this is the best locker room he's ever been a part of. He said the guys
that's a great comment.
He said the guys voluntarily hang out when they're on the road. And he was trying really hard not to throw shade at the Nets. He was like, I've been on good locker rooms. He was like very trying not to make a headline, but keeping that vibe is very important. You got to make sure that maintains it. And if you think like, why does that matter? Look around the league. Just look around the league at how many teams have talent but don't have the right vibes. The Atlanta Hawks have an incredible amount of talent. They have terrible vibes. The Phoenix Suns, even without Devin Booker, have great talent. They have terrible vibes right now.
Oof.
So
they're up next.
That stuff matters. Let's take a break. We'll wrap up and we'll talk about the projections in the Western Conference. Where are the Nuggets going to finish? How likely are they to finish with the number one seed? All that and more when we come back on Locked On Nuggets. But first, let's talk about BetOnline, your number one source for sports betting info, news, stats, and analysis. Hit the under on this Nuggets-Lakers game last night. I hit it at 241 on the under. That was a ridiculous number, an absolutely absurd number, even if LeBron had played. And then LeBron was ruled out, and I already was like, this is going to cash. Hit another one. My unders are really hitting well right now. Unfortunately, I bet on the Orlando Magic versus the Sacramento Kings. That one didn't work out so well. You can get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there. Pro football, college bowl season, basketball, and World Cup. They've got it all at betonline.net. If you love sports podcasts, you can find those at BetOnline as well. They're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info. Great opportunity to buy low on the Avalanche. I keep trying to assure my Avalanche crazy wife as I drink from my Stanley Cup Champions Cup that they're going to be fine. Landy's going to be back soon. They're going to be healthy.
Like them, huh?
I think that they're going to be fine. They just got to get healthy. I think they are Warriors-esque. That when they're back to full health, this is still the reigning Stanley Cup champions. Great buy low spot for the Avalanche. BetOnline's always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Back here on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us and making us part of your day. Appreciate you guys being with us on a Tuesday. Matt Moore and Adam Mares. Make sure to check out all the pre and post game shows over at DMVR, as well as the daily podcast from DMVR Nuggets. Adam, you got some questions for me about the Western Conference and about the projections and where exactly the Nuggets are going to end up. You're basically, this is you playing Jokic and just feeding me those sweet, sweet shots that I adore so much.
Well, you're always good at these. The here's where you're at. This is what the team has to go to get this spot or whatever it is. I mean, you're not doing magic numbers just yet. It's a little early, right? When does that start?
All-Star doing magic numbers.
Which, by the way, is not that far away. Like we're
a month away. Really.
So,
yeah.
Here's what I was looking at as I'm looking at the standings. The Nuggets have 13 losses. The loss column is always the most telling. The fourth seed Mavericks have 18. They're already 5 games back. We're about halfway through the season. That's kind of a lot. It's not impossible that Dallas couldn't overtake Denver. It's just not likely. Like the odds of that happening are pretty low. And then when you go down to the play-in level, it's like, okay, almost impossible. Eight games in the loss column. Like, all right. So Denver now to me is like very likely to be a top 3 seed. And by the way, let's just go through this upcoming schedule real quick, Matt. Phoenix at home, shorthanded Phoenix. Denver should win that game. They'll be favored by a lot. At Clippers, that can still be a tough game, but I don't know. Denver, that might be the toughest one coming up. And I still think Denver, I like Denver's chances there. Orlando at home, they should win that one. Portland at home, they should win that one. Minnesota at home on the second night of a back-to-back. It's a home back-to-back. It's going to be tough. Like those Portland, Minnesota back-to-back, like maybe they drop one there. Then you've got Indiana, who's been playing very well, but again, it's at home with a day rest, and then Oklahoma City at home. They're probably going to be favored in all of the next 8 games.
Yeah. Like they're set up very well. This home stretch, they started off so shaky at home, and for them to now be 17-3 is really promising. So if you're new to the show and you're new to following my coverage, there are 3 factors that I have zeroed in on as far as being important for regular season success: home games, division games, games against teams under 500. You beat the bad teams because those are high win percentage opportunities. You beat division games because you face them the most often. You win your home games because you have a built-in advantage. You win those 3 categories, and people will come back at me and be like, Matt, that's most of the games. If you win most of the games, you'll have a good record. Fair, but I've seen teams go the other way, where it's like they have a really good record versus over 500 teams, and they were great on the road. And I'm like, I don't know how, I've seen those teams tail off as the season goes on. These are the things that you can do sustainably well. Denver's excellent in all 3 of these categories as we approach the halfway mark of the season. We're 40 games in. It's the halfway mark. This is how quickly it sneaks up on you. Versus teams under 500, the Nuggets are 17-7. Typically, I would be like, ooh, 7's a lot. This year, it's not. None of the top 10 of the top 6 teams in the Western Conference. I'm sorry, top 10? No, the Nuggets are tied for the fewest losses in the Western Conference against teams under 500. That's how parity this season is. Paradis this season is. So they're fine in that category. They're great in the division because they rattled off a bunch of wins. Even with the Wolves loss, they're 7-3 in the division. I thought maybe this was going to be a concern. They lost to Utah and Portland, and then didn't lose again until that Wolves game. And they're 7-3 now in division. That's great. And then obviously the 17-3 at home. So all 3 categories, the Nuggets are sitting pretty here. You mentioned the lead on the 5th seed the Mavericks in the 4 spot in terms of being 5 games up. 5 games up is a lot. Just as important is they are 8 games up on the Clippers for the 6th spot. The Nuggets are going to be a playoff team. I'm just going to tell you right now.
You're calling it?
Yeah, they're not going to be in the play-in. And that's just nice to rule out when the margin of error is lower because of the play-in tournament. That margin is just too high. It's just too high given the rate that these teams win at. This is part of the thing is when we get to be after All-Star, if I'm like, this team's up by 4 games and somebody's like, that's a week. And I'm like, no, it's not. When teams are winning 3 out of 4 or, really 6 out of 10 most often, it's not. You don't catch. I've just seen it too much. The Nuggets are in a really good position. At 538, the projections are the Grizzlies are projected right now to finish 55-27, 1 game above the Nuggets at 54-28. I will continue to say that I think the Memphis Grizzlies are probably going to tail off at some point. Their performance has been heavily weighted by blowout wins versus a weak opponent base. And that's good. Again, you want to beat the bad teams, and the Grizzlies have done that. They've been excellent in that category. They're 17-6 versus teams below 500. So they are one game below Denver in terms of losses to those bad teams. But I also think that Memphis is likely to kind of slide a little bit in a number of areas. I would say that I would put the odds of Denver being a top 3 seed at 70% plus. I would put their odds of being a top
70. I'd go higher.
I like to build in the variance based off of the thing that we won't mention.
Okay. I mean, that's fair. That's perfectly reasonable. Here's the thing. You're going off 538. So they have Denver or Memphis at 55 wins, Denver at 54. The next team in the West is the Pelicans, who they have at 49. So they have a 5-game projected 5-game cushion between the top two teams and the third team. And again, it's just projections. These things change a lot, but it just shows you that Denver's likelihood of having a top 2 seed are pretty high.
Yeah, I one of the things with these projections is that they're going to have to have built in that early season stretch where the Nuggets were simply not playing well. And like we were pretty harsh on them, right? But then the whole thing was like, okay, you're going to have to show us you can do this. And Denver was like, I bet. And they showed us, right? Like, so here's another really good example of this. Memphis has been, since December 1st, Memphis has been even better. They're 15-4 since December 1st, and they are on pace on that stretch for like a 64-win season. Denver is on pace for a 52. They've been a 52-win team, essentially based off a point differential over at Cleaning the Glass since December 1st. That's way more in line with what we think that the Nuggets are going to be, and that's probably even better after December 5th. Like they were better after December 1st. They were better after November 15th. They were better after December 1st. They were better after December 15th, and they've been better since Christmas. Like the trajectory continues, right? So you versus like the Celtics, who started off impossibly hot and are still good, but it's like a gradual slide as they kind of regulate back to being, again, the Celtics are not going to be the 4 seed. The Celtics are going to be a top 3 seed, but they're not going to be the number 1 seed by a wide margin. And that's kind of what we're seeing with the Denver Nuggets. I will say at this point, I don't see the Clippers being able to put together a run. So I have an interesting question for you. Is there going to be a team like Boston last year? Right? So January 23rd, the Celtics are mid-league.
Yeah.
They are like, man, don't know if Ime Udoka's the guy. And then they become the best team in the league over the back half of the season. And we have seen teams go on not necessarily that kind of run because that was even high. But is there a team in the Western Conference that could really push in the second half of the season and just like blow past all expectations and turn their season completely around? Do you see any people of that?
Yes, it's the Warriors, of course. They're 20-20. They're 6-4 in their last 10. They haven't been playing with Steph, and they get him back tonight or tomorrow? Tonight. So to me, there's just no question. Now, I will say it's actually good for Denver, I think, if they're good, because right now they're in a terrifying spot right there in the 7 seed, which means at the moment they might be matched up with a potential matchup with the Nuggets. But I do think that the Warriors are probably going to vault into a top 5, probably top 4 spot, because I think they really are that good and health dependent. But that's the one team that I think is going to climb the standings. And then you look at, to me, the tier is Nuggets, Grizzlies, Pelicans, Mavericks, Warriors. Those are probably 2 tiers, but whatever. Let's just put them up. And then I think you have the Sacramento, Clippers, Suns, Timberwolves, Portland, Lakers, like who are all the other teams that to me are clearly below that mark. So for me, that's why I look at that and I go, yeah, the Warriors, I think, have a good chance of climbing into a top 5 seed. And we'll see what happens.
It's possible both of them make a run, but I'll tell you, I think one of the Clippers or Suns figure it out. Not both. One of them is going to spiral off of the coil, but one of those teams is going to figure it out. And it may be as simple as Phoenix makes a bunch of trades. Like that may be what has to happen. The Clippers are not going to go the trade route. They're just going to have to play better. This is like the Clippers being this bad is baffling to me. It is baffling. And if you want, like, yeah, but Kawhi doesn't play. Like Kawhi played the other night, and they're still losing. Like there's no leadership from him whatsoever. Anyway, Kawhi Leonard is very frustrating for me as an NBA guy. One team to kind of keep an eye on though is Dallas. That Dallas's win profile projects pretty well. I wouldn't be shocked if the Mavericks won the division. Like, that wouldn't necessarily surprise me. They could make a run, especially if they're able to pull off a trade that makes them better. There's talk about a Tim Hardaway Jr. for Karis LeVert trade. I don't know if that makes them better, but if they find something better than that option, they might be able to make a run. The Nuggets are sitting pretty. The Nuggets are just they're in a really good spot right now. Their win profile is good.
Yep.
They've gotten through half of what's supposed to be a tough schedule here in January. There's a lot of games, but as you mentioned, this is how the schedule has been funny for the Nuggets this season. Early, it was road heavy, opponent weak. Then it was home heavy, opponent strong.
Right.
And now it's kind of shifting into
home heavy. No, it's the next 8 games. It's home heavy, opponent weak.
It's home heavy, opponent weak, frequency heavy because they have all these back-to-backs.
That's true. That's
in
fair.
January.
That's true.
Getting that back-to-back set versus the Clippers and Cavaliers, even with Donovan Mitchell out, that was a big deal.
Yeah,
that was a low percentage spot to take 2, and they got both of them even at home. Let's go wrap it up for Locked On Nuggets for Tuesday. I hope you guys enjoyed the show today. Make sure to hit us up on Twitter and let us know at Locked On Nuggets. You can follow us on YouTube. Join the show there. Make sure you have yourselves a great week. We'll be back tomorrow with another episode. Until then, thanks for joining.